Nothing says fall to me more than caramel apples. Let me show you how to make this gourmet apple pie caramel apple and this turtle caramel apple. But first I need to show you a trick on how to make that caramel stick. I tried everything from boiling and everything else, but I'm going to show you here. Use that sandpaper and you're going to get that wax off of there. I'm going to tell you to use 220 grit sandpaper. So we're going to go ahead and sand these apples first, and then we're going to get started. So after you sand the apples and wash them, and they all look nice and dull, we're going to unwrap all of the caramels and throw them in a saucepan, a non-stick saucepan over medium heat. We're going to add a 1/4 cup of orange juice or tangerine juice here, and we're going to stir that with a spatula, add a pinch of salt to that, and then lastly a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're going to continue to stir that periodically over the medium heat until all of that caramel melts. Meanwhile, we can prepare a pan by spraying it with some olive oil spray on parchment paper. That way, after we dip these apples in the caramel, we can set them on the pan. Next, we're going to stick these skewers into the apples about halfway down. I took some bamboo skewers here and just cut off about 2 inches off the top so they wouldn't be so long. And then we're going to go back to the caramel and stir it up until it's melted. When the caramel looks silky smooth, we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat and get it ready for dipping. Let it cool for about 2 minutes before you begin. And we're just going to coat these apples here in the caramel until they're covered, as much or as little as you'd like, and let it drain off. And then we're going to place it on that parchment paper that's been sprayed with olive oil. We're going to continue going through these. I did a couple of the red delicious apples, big apples, as well as 3 of those Granny Smith apples. You need Granny Smith for the apple pie ones, and you need a nice red apple for those turtle pecan apples. And once you have all of these apples coated with that caramel sauce, we're going to go ahead and pop these in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours so that caramel has time to set. When it's about time for that caramel to be set, we're going to go ahead and melt some semi-sweet chocolate chips, 1 bag over a double boiler, and we're going to microwave that white candy coating in the microwave. And now we're ready to get started. First, we're going to start with those apple pie caramel apples, and those are going to be the Granny Smith. And you can be as creative as you want with this and as abstract as you want, or you can just do this nice and plain with a nice layer of white continuously around it. I like to take my fork and just drizzle it around the apple to make some cool abstract features. Once you get enough of that white candy coating on there, you're going to go ahead and sprinkle it with some of that cinnamon sugar that you have in a bowl. And then we're going to move on to the next 2 that we have before we go ahead and start the turtle apples. And when I'm done coating these, I'm going to throw these in the refrigerator while I start on the other apples. And these are very similar to the other ones. I'm just going to use the semi-sweet chocolate to drizzle over top of these. And I have chopped pecans to cover these with to make that turtle caramel apple. But you can pretty much use anything you want here. You can actually make these for the holidays and use different colored sprinkles, maybe red and green for Christmas, or orange and black for Halloween. That would be a nice one to do. So once these are coated with the chocolate the way you want them to look, you can go ahead and just sprinkle those little pieces of pecans on there, and then we're going to set that down on the parchment paper that's been sprayed with olive oil and do the other apple and then throw these in the refrigerator as well. You're going to want to let these sit in the refrigerator for at least an hour, 2 hours preferably, to make sure that that chocolate is nice and hard. So after 2 hours, here we have them, the caramel apple pie caramel apple and the turtle caramel apple. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I'd love to hear how your apples went in the comment section below and what kind of toppings you chose to use for yours. And thank you so much for subscribing.